Hey there, everyone, it's me. Welcome back to my channel. Have you ever had that one boss who is extremely critical of everything that you do? In this video, we're going to talk about how to work for an overly critical boss. So if you have a boss like this, stay tuned. You're definitely going to want to watch this video. Now, if you watched my previous video, then you know I talked about 8 signs that your boss doesn't respect you. An overly critical boss is actually one of the signs that your boss doesn't respect you. And I even gave examples in that video. But today we're going to dive into how to work for a boss like this. Because if you're working for an overly critical boss right now, what do, right? So let's jump right into it. No. 1. Understand your boss's perspective. Now, this might be easier said than done, but it is important that you try to understand where your boss is coming from. Why are they so critical? There could be many reasons. They could be extremely type A personalities. Maybe they're under a lot of pressure from their own boss. Maybe they just do know how to give constructive criticism, and they feel like by being overly critical, they're motivating their team. Whatever the reason, try to understand that this is not about you. This is about them and their behavior. That way you won't take it personally. No. 2. Don't take anything personally. Speaking of taking it personally, this is a really good rule of thumb when it comes to dealing with anyone in life, not just your boss. Don't take anything personally. When your boss is overly critical, don't take it personally. Try to look at the bigger picture. Are other people being treated the same way? Are they being overly critical of everyone? Or is it just you? If it's just you, then maybe it is personal. But if they're doing this to everyone, then it's just their management style. Try not to take it personally. No. 3. Don't be defensive. When your boss is being overly critical, it can be very easy to get defensive. After all, no one likes to be criticized, especially when it's done excessively. However, being defensive will only make the situation worse. The more that you defend yourself, the more that your boss will continue to criticize you. Why? Because they see that they're getting a reaction out of you. So instead of being defensive, try to remain calm and polite. Don't get drawn into an argument with your boss. Keep your cool and stay professional. No. 4. Be polite but firm. Now, you don't want to be a pushover. If your boss is being overly critical and unreasonable, then it's time to stand up for yourself. That doesn't mean that you should get angry or raise your voice. Just be firm and polite. Let your boss know that you understand their feedback, but you also need them to trust you to do your job. For example, you could say something along the lines of, "I appreciate your input. However, I think that I can handle this situation on my own." Of course, use your own discretion when deciding whether or not it's appropriate to stand up to your boss. If you feel like they're being unreasonable, then go ahead and be firm and polite. But if you feel like they have a good point, then it's probably best to just listen and learn. No. 5. Don't expect them to change. Now, this is another hard truth that you need to accept. Your boss is unlikely to change their behavior. That means that they're probably not going to stop being overly critical. Even if you try to talk to them about it, they're probably not going to listen. Why? Because some people just don't know any other way of managing people. They've been in the workforce for years and they've always managed people by being overly critical. They don't know how to do it any other way. So don't expect your boss to change. Instead, focus on changing how you react to their behavior. No. 6. Don't react. Never let your emotions get the best of you at work. Never yell at your boss back, even if they're yelling at you. Never get angry or upset. Just remain calm and polite. If you can do this, then you'll be able to handle any situation that your boss throws at you. No. 7. Focus on the positive. It can be easy to focus on the negative, especially when your boss is constantly criticizing you. However, you need to try to focus on the positive. Anytime that your boss gives you positive feedback, no matter how small it is, take it as a compliment. Let's say your boss says something like, "Good morning" to you when they usually don't acknowledge you. That's a compliment. Let's say they asked you how you are and they actually listened to your answer. That's a compliment. Let's say they smiled at you. That's a compliment. You need to focus on the positive and let the small things make you happy at work. No. 8. Set boundaries. One of the most important things that you can do when working for an overly critical boss is set boundaries. You need to let your boss know that you're really not going to tolerate being spoken to in a certain way. You also need to set boundaries between your work life and your personal life. Make sure that you don't check your work email on your phone after hours. And if your boss calls you after hours, don't answer. It's important to have a healthy work-life balance and set boundaries in order to maintain that balance. No, 9. Focus on your work. One of the best ways to deal with an overly critical boss is to just focus on your work. Don't worry about what your boss thinks of you or your work. Just do your best, and that should be enough. If you're constantly worried about your boss's approval, then you're never going to be happy at work. So focus on your work and don't worry about what your boss thinks. Number 10. Don't gossip. One of the worst things that you could do is gossip about your boss. Even if you have good reason to gossip, such as they're being overly critical of you, don't do it. Gossiping will only make you look bad. If you're caught gossiping, your boss will assume that you're talking about them, and it will only make the situation worse. Stay professional at all times and don't gossip. Number 11. Do your best and let your work speak for itself. Now, this is probably the best advice that I can give you. Do your best and let your work speak for itself. If you're constantly worried about your boss's approval, then you're never going to be happy at work. Do your best and let your work speak for itself. If you're consistently producing high-quality work, then your boss will eventually notice. Eventually, your boss will see that you're a valuable employee and treat you accordingly. And number 12, know when to walk away. Now, this is the final piece of advice. If your boss is constantly criticizing you and you've tried everything else, then it may be time to walk away. You deserve to work for someone who appreciates you. You need to know when to walk away from a toxic situation. And sometimes walking away from your boss is the best option. So those are 12 things that you can do when working for an overly critical boss. If you have any other tips, please share them in the comment section below, because I am sure that everyone here would really appreciate it. Before you go, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. Also, let me know in the comments below which tip was the most helpful to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.